Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of High Energy Girl. And today's guest is Dr. Joseph Antoun, who is the CEO of L-Nutra, and he is a longevity pioneer. He went from a traditional medical doctor into the wellness industry so he could help people with alternative ways to heal and live longer. He works with Dr. Walter Longo, who's the director of the Longevity Center at USC, and we talk about fasting primarily in a way that you can do it simply and easily. So let's go and say hello to Dr. Antoun. Hey everyone, welcome to High Energy Girl, a podcast helping women to age stronger because it is never too late to get fit, be strong, and feel sexy. I'm your host, Tracy Gluhite, health coach and personal trainer and founder of highenergygirl.com. Each week, we will either have a guest interview, which will provide you encouragement or an actionable tip to help you age stronger, or I will do a solo episode. Please also join our awesome Facebook group called High Energy Girls, and I'm looking forward to see you on the inside of that group and hope you enjoy today's show. Guess what, everyone? My book is out. It is a revised and updated edition of a book I wrote 5 years ago called No Frickin' Way, 21 Days to Ditch the Diet and Lose Weight the Keto Way by Loving Yourself to Health. When I first wrote the original book, I was not a believer in the low carb movement, but after all the years of research I've done, I am sold out for life. In this book, you will learn about all the lies you have been fed, how to engage in loving self-care, how to eat nourishing foods that provide massive energy, why the ketogenic diet is not a fad, how to heal your body through fasting, why you should move your body to get stronger, and how to create an empowering mindset. Start reading now and finally achieve the high energy and positive body image you deserve. Check it out on Kindle, on Amazon. And if you like it, please leave us a review because this will help more people find it. I really want to inspire people to not deprive themselves, but to nourish themselves with loving self-care and amazingly healthy food so that they can age stronger. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I enjoyed writing it. Hey, doctor, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you very much for hosting me.
So for the listeners that don't know you yet, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
So my name is Joseph Antoun. I'm the CEO of a company called L-Nutra. And basically, it's a longevity company through changing people's lifestyle and nutrition. We are known to have brought back fasting to the world. We'll talk a little bit more about that. About me personally, I've been CEO here for 5 years. Before that, I started my career as a physician and then noticed that I've been a little bit scripted to give a pill for everything, whether it's for cholesterol, triglyceride, or blood pressure, or blood sugar, what have you. And none of those pills were reversing these conditions. They were just maintaining healthy level of whatever in the blood. And so I got passionate about how can I reverse really these conditions and move sick care to health care. So I left and I went to do health policy and public health. I did Harvard and Hopkins and wanted to change the healthcare system, again, from a sick care focus to healthcare or preventive system. And then I got to the prevention part of care, and it was a lot of recommendations about how to eat and how to exercise and what every one of us know, not to smoke and all of that, but people make choices and it wasn't moving the needle. And I figured out we have to create a market for prevention and have products that people can consume for prevention the same way the pharmaceutical system, the hospital system created services and products for when you're sick. And it became my passion to launch the first aging product or longevity product and educated myself a lot on the topic. And there were a lot of longevity experts pointing out at this professor called Walter Longo, who's the founder of this company, L-Nutra, and who has brought back fasting to the world, but fasting is so difficult to do. So he discovered a diet that can give you the benefits of fasting. And so it's a product. And then that product was so scientifically studied that it had a patent on longevity and aging and multiple and helping people with multiple conditions. So I love the concept. I felt we can have the first biotech on nutrition. We call it Nutri-tech, meaning bringing the science of nutrition as a product for prevention and helping people live a healthy, long life. So I decided to leave everything and join the company. And I'm known to have launched Prolon, the first fasting product, and opened the fasting market 6 years ago. Most of your listeners now practice certain kind of fasting, but 6 years ago, nobody had heard about fasting outside of religious practices. So we brought back fasting to the world, and we made it safe and compliant with giving you a kind of food that mimics the benefits. And here we are today.
Awesome. Well, I honor you for crossing that bridge. And it's funny that you said that, because my mom, I have to take care of her a lot. I have to care for her. And today I took her to this new doctor, and she's very Western driven and I'm very not. And the doctor said to me, well, I think we need to, after looking at this medication list, I think we need to get her off of some of these. And I'm like, okay, I love you already. Like, you know, so that made me.
Was it a functional medicine doctor or a mainstream?
He was a neurologist, because she has, I thought she had like Alzheimer's dementia. Today he said, actually, no, she has mild cognitive decline. I think that's what he called it. And so anyways, he's like, she's on so many different medications, but see, she just believes everything the doctor tells her and does what they said. So anyway, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. But I do kind of want to talk about your bridge first. And then I also want to talk about the Prolon and the fasting mimicking. So did you just kind of cut the cord and jump over, or did you slowly learn? Because it's very, very rare that we see this.
Yeah, I actually did cut it, and my peers couldn't believe it. So basically, I was doing my rotations at Mass General, some of them at St. Joseph and some of them at Mass General, which is Harvard's main, one of Harvard's main hospital. And then I was, typically if you're starting your class, they offer you like a pre-feed if you want, and they started talking to me, and I always wanted to be a cardiologist, and I was rotating in cardiology actually as a student. And I'm sitting next to the attending in the clinic, and a 55-year-old male come into the clinic. I mean, he's a little bit overweight, obviously age plus overweight plus stress, equals a little bit of higher blood pressure, higher blood glucose, and cholesterol with aging. And for me, it was like, why he's getting out with a statin and a blood pressure medication and a metformin. And we're not saying that we're against those. I mean, there's a place for them, but why don't you start helping him with changing his lifestyle? And for me, it was like the weight, the exercise, the stress, the sleep, and sometimes it's just emotional, right? It's receiving love, giving love, and being well embraced. And that was absent from medicine. And I felt like the system, just doesn't work like this. And I used to always keep an eye on longevity, and I don't know if you know, but we lost half a year actually in America last year of lifespan. Given although we spend in trillions now at 3 trillion plus, and it keeps growing by hundreds of billions every year, we actually are losing in lifespan. So I was like, that's not for me, and I became very passionate about changing the healthcare system. I always had another reason, which is access to medicine. I always felt that, there's a relationship between income and access to best healthcare, and I was a little bit, not happy with that, and I wanted to increase fairness in access to medicine. So between a sick care system and a sick care that's serving the higher income, and I wanted a little bit of more fairness there, I decided to leave, and this is what I did. I didn't even sign with any of the hospitals for my residency. I just left. and went straight into health policy at Harvard and then public health at Hopkins and started my career.
Cool. Yeah, I think that's really important, especially with this last year and a half, which we have experienced, as a country or as a world. I just read an article the other day that talked about India and how they are giving their people, I can't remember everything, but I know it's a lot of supplements and vitamins like C and D and zinc and ivermectin and doxycycline. It's like a little pack that they give everybody.
Yeah.
And it's less than, I want to say it's like $5 a person. And
Yeah.
so they've completely eradicated COVID because now they're treating the whole person to prevent disease rather than putting a Band-Aid on the symptom. And I was super impressed with that.
Yeah, I'm not sure they completely eradicated, but yeah, I probably it helped a lot. If you think about it, the two biggest lessons coming out of COVID, it was you get a COVID complication if you're overweight or if you're aged, right? And then it's like too bad for you if you're overweight or if you're a little bit on the older side. And that didn't translate into, okay, shall we, which by the way, overweight is behind diabetes, is behind cancer, is behind Alzheimer's, which many doctors now call type 3 diabetes. So nobody says, okay, this is our next venture as humanity. We should go back to healthy lifestyle. And if you have a healthy lifestyle, you age at a better rate, right? With a better quality. So you hit both weight and aging. And you don't see that popping up. It just you see how can we bring a new pill and a new injection and a new, it's just we're wired to just think this way rather than take massive interventions that really will move the needle on disease profile.
Yeah. So fasting, as we know, is one of those things that actually moves the needle and helps our bodies get healthier. Why don't you go ahead and give an overview of why fasting?
It's very interesting. We believe that we've been on planet Earth as humans for hundreds of thousands of years, and so we've been sculpted by nature, right? We evolved with nature, and when we were here, it was never with refrigeration and Uber Eats and all of that. We barely had food, right? And we were fasting and eating. Not feasting, not overeating, and not eating all the time, and not fasting all the time. It's important because a lot of people are with eating all the time or fasting all the time, where it was cycles of when there's a food, the body, enjoys it. And if there's over food, it stocks a little bit into fat for the bad days when there's fasting, and this is when you lose the fat. And then we evolved to optimize supply chain and make food available and delicious and concentrate sugar and concentrate fat and concentrate proteins. And now we have a global epidemic called overweight and obesity. And we try to treat it with low calorie diets, which have some merits, but nobody can, or few people can go on low calorie diets for long term, and they slow your metabolism. So our strategy was, why don't we go back and rematch humans with what humans are supposed or were sculpted to do, which is, yes, eat, don't overeat, but there are periods where you should not be eating. And we started studying fasting, and this started all at University of Southern California some 23 years ago, in the labs of Walter Longo. Walter Longo, the biggest name in fasting, he was nominated by Time magazine among the top 50 most influential people in health for bringing back fasting to the world. And he started studying fasting 23 years ago. And what he discovered is it wasn't just calories. It's not like, well, okay, if you don't eat, you're fasting, therefore you lose weight. And that's part of it. But what was very interesting and what made fasting really such a big today lifestyle is that fasting works by stress. Meaning, if say you're head of a company and you need $1 million to operate a month, it's like the body needing food. If I give you 900,000, this is every low calorie diet, well, your bank account drops a little bit. That's your fat dropping a little bit. Now, fasting is, if you need $1 million and give you zero, you're not going to just sit and wait for the bank account to drop and you go bankrupt. You're going to restructure your company. You're going to go and say, look, I need savings. I need to let this person go. I need to cut my expenditure. I need to fix this not working computer system and all of that. So you start restructuring and improving the structure and the function. So what we notice is when you fast the body, it goes into crisis. There's stress on the cells. And although you're actually losing fat pretty fast, which on itself has a lot of merit, you lose a lot of weight and everything related to weight, whether it's blood pressure and cholesterol and triglyceride and all the other things get tagged along. So there's merit just in weight loss with fasting, but there's extra merit, which is a cellular involvement, the stress on the cells to optimize the cellular performance. And we call that autophagy. The cell starts saying, I'm in a crisis, let me eat the debris and the organelles, let me fix my inside to survive the stress. And so not only metabolically you're improving, but you're improving on a cellular and cellular physiology and biology, and the cells get biologically younger and healthier. And this is what made fasting a big explosion. Now, unfortunately, some people are pushing it, you just fast for 2 hours, you get rejuvenation. That's not going to happen. Even if you fast for 12 and 14 hours, for most people, they wouldn't get there. You would lose the weight, which is great with intermittent fasting. You got to cross a day or two. So going back to the example of the company, you need $1 million. If I postpone for 16 hours, giving you that fraction, you're not going to go and change the company, right? You're going to feel it over like, hey, a week or two or a few days, say, look, I need to fix. So the same thing with the body. You have to cross a couple of days of fasting to get a fully engaged cellular rejuvenation.
So what's the minimum on that? Because I've done as much as the longest fast I've done is like 3.5 days, and then I caved, and it was all mental. Physical, I was okay, but mentally, I was just like, oh, yeah. I gotta have a salad.
Yeah. No, and don't get me wrong, I'm not advocating for long-term water fast per se. I'll continue my line of thought, but to answer your question, when the cells get involved, it depends on the body. If you're a 300-pounder that really exercises and needs a lot of, or say you're super skinny, right? You have no reserves. You're 120 pounds and you run every day 3 miles in the morning and you don't have reserve. If I fast you don't have a lot of reserve, you're going to get into autophagy fast. So it depends on the weight, on the BMI, on the lifestyle, and on the demand on calorie versus the fast to no calorie state. The higher the demand, the more you have a higher metabolism, you exercise, you don't have a lot of reserve, you get into autophagy a little bit sooner than a person who has a lot of reserves and has low metabolic rate and is not exercising. So there's no set of hours, but it's not going to happen in 12 hours. 12 hours of fast actually is a normal way of eating. You sleep and you get up and you should not be eating all the time. But some people start entering into it probably 14, 15, 16, 17. Others need a day or day plus. But to get into full autophagy, you get across to the periodic fast or the 2 days plus. Then you get into full, regardless of you have reserve or not, you're there. And it's difficult for people, like you said, to do multiple days of water fast. That's going back to our story. We were a water fasting company, and then we figured out that you need to cross day 2 and 3 to get into full cellular rejuvenation. Nobody can do that, but the benefits in mice were really high. So the National Institute of Health stepped in and said, okay, we're going to support you with funds to go and develop the fasting mimicking diet. Can you nourish that body and keep the same stress of fasting signal on the cells? And this is how actually we were fundamentally created as a company that can mimic fasting with food. And to go back to the example of you needing $1 million to operate, can we give you $400,000? And can we earmark those to things that are beneficial? So for your HR to keep paying the salaries and for your supply so that you can sell. But we're going to keep the stress on your sales, on your marketing, on other parts of the company so that you go and fix those. So the fasting mimicking diet was born actually out of the generosity of the NIH and the NIA. Thanks, big thanks to them. And in research of multiple universities led by University of Southern California, saying, how can we feed the body, but not enough for the cells to feel that it's fully fed? And how can we earmark the nutrition so that it helps it covers part of the stress, but it keeps the stress and the rejuvenation signal at cellular level.
Okay. So I've got lots of questions on all this. Okay. So for somebody like me, I am 55 in the low 140s. I do CrossFit. I'm pretty athletic. I do have, ideally I could lose like maybe 5 to 10 pounds of like menopause, just like extra little fluff.
Yeah.
I'm not overweight. But if I wanted to be optimized, because my dad had cancer 5 different times. And so that's a huge thing for me is prevention. And I know fasting helps with prevention for cancer because of the autophagy, which sloughs off, or repairs and recycles damaged cells. Okay. Am I right on this so far?
Well, yes, fasting induces a lot of positive signals that can induce those. There are multiple articles linking fasting to lower IGF, which links then to decrease in rates of cancers.
Okay, so I know you can't make claims. I mean, I know that,
I got to be careful as a CEO of a company.
You can't make medical claims. I understand that. And I'm sorry for even going down there. But if I wanted to do something like this, how is it going to affect my performance in the gym? Am I going to lose muscle? Because that's a huge thing that I don't want to lose strength or muscle because I've worked hard for it. Yes. So what do you recommend somebody like me?
Yeah, so actually you're a great case for, you don't need to lose a lot of weight. And actually the fasting we recommend with the fasting and the diet is partially you have those benefits, but in your case, you don't need to lose a lot of weight. You do it 2 to 3 times a year to rejuvenate your cells. So what's important for you is, hey, I don't have high metabolic related diseases, right? Your risk of diabetes is not high, but you're worrying about your aging, you're worrying about age-related conditions, and you're saying, longevity. Hey, how can I do longevity? You want to have a longevity lifestyle and age gracefully. So what matters for you is cellular rejuvenation, which 2 to 3 times a year is probably what we recommend today for you. Now you asked a very important question, which is about the muscle. So this is one of the main separator between fasting and any other diet. So when you do any diet, any low-calorie diet, you lose muscle as well because the body goes to there's a deficit in calories, and the body goes to the liver with neoglycogenesis. The body goes to muscle with glycogen as well, and goes to fat. With fasting, the story is a little bit the opposite. It's a stress. And if you see a hungry tiger, you don't see a weak tiger. He's ready to. So when there's stress, the stress hormones are high. The growth hormone actually is one of those. So the muscle tone, because remember, this comes. What established fasting is it's a natural phenomenon. We're not imposing. I mean, you can go keto, but that's an imposition on our lifestyle. You go vegan, that's an imposition. Fasting, we lived with it, so the body knows what to do with it. And when you fast, the body turns ketones, the fat into ketones. Why? Because you want to feed the brain, which is a fat organ, to stay up. If you faint, we will be exterminated as a race. And the body actually invests with the growth hormone to keep the muscle tone high, because if you don't walk, if you cannot walk and find the next tree, the next animal to hunt, then also we would be exterminated as a human race. So actually, we even fight patents because we saw in our randomized clinical trials going versus Mediterranean diet. For example, we've shown that we preserve lean body mass versus you lose lean body mass with others. And it's well described in fasting because of the stress. The stress hormones are high, the muscle tone is there, the rejuvenation happens, and you keep the muscle tone.
So how many days? If I do it 2 to 3 times a year, how many days do I have to do it for?
The regimen that we have, the fasting mimicking diet regimen, is in 5 days. So you would get your food. It's 1,100 calories first day, and then 800 calories every other day. and it's a 5-day fasting mimicking diet. And so why it's a 5 days, day one is a transition, you transition, and day 2 and 3 is where your body is entering into the fast and you're starting getting the cellular impact, and you want to give day 4 and 5 for that rejuvenative process to complete, and then you go for refeeding to feed again your rejuvenated cells, and your body is, if you go back to the company example, it's a lean, mean, cost-effective company after it gets to this restructure.
So do you put everybody on the same calories, or do you change it up based on how big you are?
We do. We tested male and female. We tested 20 years to 70 years. We tested, because it's 5 days. So if it was a short and sensitive, we would go back to what's your BMI and what's your, we've seen it work on everyone. It goes 5 days. Now, some people might lose more because, again, they're on the spectrum of I carry more weight and I have a high energy dependence, and I exercise, versus I'm skinnier, I'm shorter. So you get probably a delta in how much you lose weight or how much in deep autophagy you go in. But the results did not show a discrimination between whether your gender or age or BMI. They get the results within that 5 days window.
Wow. And so basically everybody's on the same exact kit or whatever. So tell me a little bit more about the calories. What are you, because I've been keto, you said it's imposition. I've been keto for 6 years. It's not hard for me because my favorite food on the planet is salad with like protein on it. So that is easy for me to do. So what food do you recommend we eat during this 800 calorie period?
It's pre-made. It's a fasting mimicking diet that we have 77 ingredients, and we have tested for like years and years and years. And because if one of the ingredients is off, your cell recognizes the food, and you're just eating a low-calorie diet without getting the stress of fasting. So it's a preset regimen of ingredients, and it took years and years and tens of millions of dollars to figure out when to feed you what in the morning, at lunch, because in the morning you have different insulin sensitivity and different cortisol versus lunch versus dinner. And you have, so I know the first reaction is, how come you're giving the same calories to everyone? And it's a stress. Remember, the calorie is just one arm. The most important thing are the ingredients and how to earmark them and what part of the day to give what, so that your body is actually feeling the stress of fasting. We actually have a high calorie fasting mimicking diet that we're testing for neurological disease. So calorie is just one arm, but it's not a calorie/BMI purely dependent. It's very much dependent on ingredients and times of the days and what we mix together to lower glycemic index and absorption, while not going very low, so to keep you safely nourished and go through this 5 days. It's
Okay.
There's today, probably is the most studied nutrition ever now. We have over 17 trials completed and 14 clinical trials happening on the fasting mimicking diet. There's over 24 universities globally doing the research, from USC, UCLA, Stanford, Berlin, Genoa, Milan, you name it. I mean, there's Indiana University and University of Miami, and so there's many universities involved in the research. It's a very precise formulation that can nourish you over the 5 days and it's called the fasting mimicking diet.
So if I did it, what would I feel differently at the end? Like, what is the most common types of feelings that you notice, like benefits?
The most benefits we hear, and a lot of it is experiential and emotional, is because it goes all the way to 5 days and you have the rejuvenation. There's a kind of a reset. Most people say it's like I got a full reset in my life, whether it's my mood and my energy, whether it's my dependence and addiction to volume of food, or eating late at night, or not being able to get a smaller food, is people turning more, like you said, plant-based plus some protein versus a dependence on whatever addiction or whatever style of food they had. So we hear a lot about changing my relationship with food and getting a better sense of energy, self-esteem, and accomplishment.
Oh, I bet they really probably feel more energy. They probably sleep better.
And this is outside of the weight and the related benefits, which are unbelievable. Obviously, fasting is one of the fastest drivers of weight loss and what's related to that metabolically. But feeling wise is and the beauty about the fasting mimicking diet is only a 5-day diet. So you're not putting a person on an everyday diet. And that's key. And that's important because most people cannot go on an everyday diet. I mean, you're an exception. America is 73% overweight because people cannot follow a diet or a healthy diet every day. And we got to get them solutions that they can achieve and feel. If you go back to the latest theories in behavioral changes, is what are those small wins that can build up to a true change in life versus put you from day one on a long-term diet, and then you feel learned helplessness, and then you move off it, and then you just go back into a vicious cycle of regaining weight and feeling bad about it.
Yeah, and I feel bad for a lot of people because it's not their fault. I mean, with food science and everything that is done in our food, all of the additives, the natural flavors, they're trying to make the foods addictive, and so then people have a hard time stop eating. It's like that leptin just doesn't trigger. And so perhaps doing a short-term type of of your fasting mimicking diet, then it might reset the leptin and ghrelin hormones. What do you?
Yes, and that's one of the major scientific outcome we test with almost every trial we do is the ghrelin and leptin, and they're always are adjusting in the right direction. That's key actually for our diet, and that's the addiction that we were talking about.
Okay. And it probably breaks some loops too with going home at night and grabbing the chips or whatever, somebody might do.
Or
Cool.
late night snacking.
Yeah, I don't know how people do that. That's nothing I've ever done is snack late at night.
It's the probably biggest lifestyle in America is late night snacking. Actually, a lot of the studies show you that the morning, whether you have breakfast or not, doesn't matter as much as the late night snacking.
Oh.
Think about it. What you eat late at night is what you're going to sleep on, versus what you're going to eat in a day is what you're going to burn throughout the day as well.
Yeah, and then you're also affecting your hormones while you sleep if you have a full tummy, and repair. Yep. So that's my thing. It's all the repair cycles that we go through when we're sleeping that if you eat at night, you're not going to go through it,
Yeah, the Nobel Prize in Medicine 2017. So Nobel Prize in Medicine 2016 was on autophagy, which we know happens with fasting. Nobel Prize in 2017, the next year, was on the circadian rhythm of the organs, showing that actually, when you sleep, it's not just your brain. You got to rest every organ of your body for them to repair and rejuvenate. So this goes back to reinforce this notion of fasting is not only a calorie in, calorie out, but it's actually that circadian rhythm reparation that happens overnight. When you sleep, it's not just the brain, but it's your liver needs also the same rest. Doesn't need to work all night in digestion, same as your GI tract system, same as, this is why a lot of people who eat, they get dreams, they gain the weight faster, they feel in the morning that they're tired, and so that's a little bit, that Nobel Prize didn't get a lot of media traction as much as autophagy, but it's actually very important.
Yeah, that makes sense. I notice I have an Oura ring, and if I ever eat late, I always can tell because my resting heart rate is higher than it normally is. So
yeah.
That's hard on your body too. Okay, so how can we get a kit? How can we learn more about this? How can we get started?
So if you want to start with the fasting mimicking diet, there's if you want to learn more, you can visit the website. It's called Prolon. The product's called Prolon. PROLON, and in the website is prolonfast.com. We're going to go in depth about fasting, mimicking diet, and what happens to the body and how the science came about. The founder, Professor Walter Longo, published his book in 2018 now, and it's called The Longevity Diet. It actually talks about fasting and what to eat between fasting cycles. The Longevity Diet was a bestseller for Amazon, and it's a life-changing book, and it's still over 1 million or plus, sold copies, and still a lot of people read it. I think, Walter Longo went around the world. He met a lot of centenarians. He find the commonality of what they eat and how they fast, and when they eat, and how they eat, and what they eat, and he put it all in one book. He couples it with a lot of science at multiple universities. So I think it's a life-changing book. I recommend people read it. But if you want to go straight to trying the product, it's called Prolon. Prolonfast.com is the website.
Prolonfast.com.
Yeah.
And they just go on there, they order their fasting kit, and
you get a box delivered to you in a couple of days, and then you open it. There are 5 boxes in it. Each box is your food for the day, and your drinks, and your supplements. So you don't need to do anything else. Pretty straightforward. You have your card, what to eat for breakfast. It's all in the box. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And you'll be auto-dependent. You don't have to do your groceries or shopping or cooking for 5 days. A lot of people love that, actually. And it will be the first time probably in many people's history to turn into fasting, ketosis, rejuvenation. And we're close to selling our 1 million box. So a lot of people have done it. Yeah, and it's one of the fastest growing probably nutrition company now in the US. We have over 17,500 clinics that are now registered to offer. Also a lot of doctors, especially in functional medicine and family practitioners, are recommending Prolon for their patients. So we're pretty excited to be at the forefront of fasting and food as medicine, as well.
oh, that is awesome. 1 million. Wow. So you're actually doing 3 meals. So there's no intermittent fasting while you're fasting. You're just eating your 3 meals a day.
The morning food is the bar, the L bar or the fast bar. Actually, we do have that product as separate, which is the bar. So it mimics fasting. So we actually have a clinical trial on the morning bar, the fast bar, that can keep you equal to water fast. So you're sleeping, you're doing your 12 hours, you eat the bar, and we have a randomized clinical trial on a fast bar. It's actually fastbar.com is a product of ours. And we have just published this past April a trial showing that comparing water fasting to eating our fast bar to eating a breakfast bar, and glucose and in the blood, sugar in the blood, and ketones were equal whether you do water fast or you eat our bar. Otherwise, we don't mimic fasting. It's called the fasting mimicking diet. And this is where millions of dollars and years of trials have led to. And you can read that article. It's a fascinating article showing that water fast or fast bar, you have a flat second day, at hour 1, 15, 16, 17, 18, have the same ketones and the same glucose as water fast.
Wow, I'm impressed with that. Because I even tell my clients, don't put collagen in your coffee, 1 teaspoon of MCT oil. That's it,
The MCT oil is not a fasting. It's just bringing more ketone-like, the MCT oil or any of the supplementation of the keto-like ingredients. You're just giving the ingredients or the downbreak of fat into the blood. With us, you're eating proteins, you're eating carbs, you're eating fat, you're getting the supplements, you're getting a full nutrition. And still, it's like you're saying to me, wait a second, this CEO needed $1 million. We're still giving him 400, 500,000. We're giving him money or her. We're giving them half of the calories, which is significant. We're not giving them just, a bypass of that. And that's the art, is how come you can feed all the macros and the supplements and keep the body in the fasting. And this is what took 2 decades of research and tons of funding and support to get here. And basically, as I explained it, is we give the funding to the company, we earmark it to different departments, we keep the stress of fixing other departments, and this is what's the positive side of it is.
Yeah, no, it sounds awesome. It's almost too good to be true. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
that's kind of a lot of calories to eat while you're fasting. So if it's working, I mean, I
Yeah.
gotta try it.
Yeah, and this is when you saw my resentment into water fast or getting close to it, because also you have to be safe. You know, the first thing, I'm a physician, the first thing we swear on is primo meal nutrition, first don't harm. And this is why we gotta feed. We don't do fasting by starvation. Prolon is fasting by nourishment, not fasting by starvation. And otherwise, it's not a technology. And by the way, now there's 371 patents filed globally on the fasting mimicking diet. 371 patents globally filed on the fasting mimicking diet. So it's a true
Wow.
innovation, a scientific innovation in nutrition. And it was very important. This is why it's a very specific formulation. You go below, you're just having the patient or the consumer starving, right? And it takes a little bit of heat and a little bit of over exercise. You can actually collapse. And the opposite, if you overnourish, then the body is not fasting, just going on a low calorie diet. So this is why the precision nutrition there worked pretty well, and the testing was needed to mimic the fast.
Okay, so when I did my fasting, I exercised like normal and I felt the same. I felt fine. I didn't have any dips in
You
energy.
have elasticity in your body. You're a keto. You're on keto, right? So you build that elasticity to move from your brain and your body and move from carb consumption to keto consumption fast. Most people don't have that elasticity.
Right.
Most people will have a strong headache, and will, if they just go on water fast, it will be a different. They'll be less elastic than you are.
Yeah, they would have a headache big time because they need more sodium. So the question I have for you is with a regular patient or whatever of yours, a regular client, do you tell them to not exercise during those 5 days or can they exercise? Because I've heard other people being on different programs and their doctors say, oh, don't exercise.
We try to be cautious. Again, for us, safety is super critical. And we tell people, don't do heavy exercise. Now, if you do yoga, if you do stretching, if you go to the gym for some weightlifting, these are not high calorie consuming exercises. But do you want to run a 10-mile day marathon? Don't do that on your day 3 or 4 or 5. Just wait 2 days and do it. The beauty is we're only 5-day regimen, and you can do whatever exercise you want on a day 6 or after. During the 5 days, take it light, and your
Okay.
body will tell you. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Where are you, what state are you guys in?
We actually are LA based, and we took an office in Plano in Texas, and then we have a subsidiary in New Jersey, and now we're in 16 countries international.
Holy cow, that's great.
Yeah,
Awesome. So you guys ship out of LA? Because I'm in the Bay Area.
we both there and from Texas. We have both, and we actually ship from New Jersey as well.
Okay. Okay. I was just curious how fast I could get a kit.
Yeah,
I gotta experiment. Like
yeah,
I just try things
and
because you
report your
never know.
experience. Yeah, I would love for you to report it to your audience or to us. We're very proud of the results, and the beauty is on day 6 it takes 6 on day 6 you'll call and say, hey, this is how I felt, this is what happened.
Yeah, I like that because in the fall and in the spring, I like to do something
Yes,
different, like a cleanse or a fast or something just to kind of reset the body for the coming season. And in Ayurveda, they say that it's really good to do it every
yes,
quarter, but I
yes.
usually just do fall and spring.
And Ayurveda actually had fasting part of it, and I agree. This is why when you ask me, I said 3 max 4 times a year. Is that quarterly thing is important. And the detox and cleansing aspect of fast, we didn't talk a lot about it, but that's important. There's a lot of cleanses out there. They will cleanse you a little bit out of minerals, out of some toxins, etc. But if you think about fasting, it's a true cleansing of the cell. It's the cell fixing itself, and that's cleansing 2.0. And I'm happy you brought it up. We didn't cover that.
Well, we have time. I'm happy to go into it because I think that's important. I mean, our cells, well, besides our atoms, but cells are, you know, a foundation of our building blocks of life. So that's
Yeah,
important. Go ahead.
yeah, I agree. And many of the, if you, you know, there's a very wise guy that helped me in my career early on with one concept. You know, I'm as a physician, I'm trained that, you know, diabetes is a different disease than cancer. Cancer is a different disease than Alzheimer's, is a different disease than cardiovascular. They're different systems, but maybe not separated mechanism, right? And he asked me, he's like, why don't you get first heart attack at age 22? Why you don't get Alzheimer's at age 23? Why you don't get most cancers at age 24? And these are the symptoms of aging, actually, and they're age-related health conditions. When we age, if your brain is aging, you know, and is becoming weak, then we call it dementia, you call it Alzheimer's. Same with the heart, you know, this clotting with time, and then you get a first heart attack. So it's really symptoms of aging. And if you look at aging, is at the end, it's our cells and metabolism. And if you find a way to keep your cells younger, this is the best way to prevent or to delay the onset of all these conditions together, rather than just go fight diabetes. And by the way, the same aging happened in the brain. You're going to get Alzheimer's 2 years after. And if you go and take 60 pills for that, which you're not going to reverse it, then you're going to have cancer 5 years after, because it's aging, right? That's the true mechanism. And for us to tying back my story and the sick care and healthcare system, this is why I came to this company. I was like, what can keep us healthier longer and not just sick long, which is what we have built with the current sick care system. And to stay healthy long, you want to impact your weight and metabolism, but also you want to impact your cells to keep them vibrant longer and younger longer.
Yeah, absolutely. And tell them you can actually reverse. Like it, I always say you're not too old and it's never too late to do a complete 180 and change the trajectory of your health.
Yeah, these are strong words for us. It's claims. I mean, you can put
I
in
know, I know.
the words reverse and prevent, and you know, I stay away from those. But definitely, stress imposed on the cells induce positive reaction from the cell, and from time to time, it's like everything in life. The best example, you know, when I first joined L-Nutra, I was Ubering in LA to work, and I was like, how am I going to launch fasting? How am I going to tell people to fast? This is 6 years ago, where there's no one voice talking about it. And how can I explain that stress is positive, right? Like, who wants to stress themselves? I don't want to stress, right? How can I explain that it's positive for the self? And I every day I had a scientific pitch. I said, if I can, because you know, the first rule in marketing, you got to explain to the fifth grader, and then you can go out with it. And I was explaining every day, trying to detail what we do to the Uber driver back and forth every day. And I tried every scientific pitch. I've tried every, you know, and the one that worked really well is the college students, or any student at school or college, right? You can tell them to study every day. This is what their parents tell them, and maybe just 10% study every day and go like smoothly into the exam. Most of them, they study and they party, but 5 days before the exam, they sit and they focus 16, 18 hours. It's a highly stressed period to compensate and to go and pass the exam. And I think this is what fasting is. It's for most people can do it. Most people do it because they don't want to enjoy life in the other days. And before the test, they stress a little bit themselves, they focus, they study, and they pass the exam. And this is a little bit how I would see fasting.
I was one of those guilty. You have a month to do a paper and you wait till the last week.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I think that that all sounds really, really amazing. And I think it almost, like I said, it seems like the best of both worlds. If you're able to actually have that many calories and have all of the benefits, you know, I would assume one of them is like the decreasing inflammation. I mean, I know you can't say all that, but I can. But I'm thinking that it seems like a win-win. So,
Thank you for hosting me today. I hope we informed our audience a little bit about the different types of fasting, the different benefits, and how they can get some of those with the fasting mimicking diet today. I think it's very important to focus on our lifestyle. It's probably the cornerstone of how we're going to age and how we're going to end our life. And it's critical. If anything from this pandemic we lived, again, the two biggest conclusions were, oh, sorry, if you're older or if you're overweight, you're going to have complications. Well, this is the time to think about how to age gracefully and how to stay fit. And I hope we advance that a little bit for your audience today with the notion of fasting.
Absolutely. I always say it's aging vibrant instead of like this. You know, you don't want to age in drudgery and like low energy and lack of, you know, luster. Like, let's age out here, you know? And by the way, I did read that book by Dr. Longo years ago, because I know it's up in my closet on the right-hand side on the bottom shelf. I know exactly where it is.
Yeah.
So that's pretty funny. Because that's always been my thing, is not aging the way my parents are aging, but age in health instead of sickness. So thank you so much for coming on the show today, Doctor. I learned a lot, and I'm excited to, you know, see how I do on this fasting mimicking.
Yeah. Thank you for hosting me today, and we'll be talking soon.
Okay. Take care.
Thanks.
Okay. Bye. Okay, you guys, I'm really curious about this product. Do you think it will work well? I'm pretty excited to try it, and I'll give you guys my feedback afterwards. So I just want to thank you so much for listening. For complete show notes, head on over to highenergygirl.com/show, where you can also find a bunch of amazing episodes. So go out and make it a great day. This podcast contains the opinion and thoughts of its host and guests. It is intended to provide helpful and informative material on the subjects covered. All statements made on the podcast have not been evaluated by the FDA and are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease. If the listener requires professional assistance or advice, please contact your personal medical doctor. Both host and guest specifically disclaim any responsibility for any liability, loss, or risk, personal or otherwise, which is incurred as a consequence directly or indirectly of the use and application of any of the contents of these episodes. Like I said, this is my opinion, and I could be wrong.